Hello everyone, it's Jen Kramer. Welcome to day number 4 of creating your first interactive website with Softr and Airtable. And today is the big day that everybody's been waiting for. Today is the day that we're going to connect Softr and Airtable, make them talk to each other and start displaying our Airtable information on our Softr website. To get started, you're going to need to have your web browser open, and you're going to need to log into both Softr and into Airtable. I'm starting here in Softr. Find your AirPets website, go ahead and click on that so that will go ahead and load up here. Over on the Airtable side, make sure that you have your Airtable base open. Just go to airtable.com, make sure you're logged in, and click on the AirPets base that you created a couple of days ago. Now, what we're going to do is, inside of Softr, we're going to go to our settings, we're going to go to integrations, we're going to go to Airtable, and the first thing it's going to ask us for is the so-called API key. So what the heck is an API key and where do you get it? Well, API stands for Application Programming Interface. You may have heard APIs before as you wander through the no-code universe. This is the concept of getting two applications made potentially by completely separate and different companies, as Softr and Airtable are, and getting them to share data in a secure way. So there's two pieces of information that Softr is going to need in order to make this work for them. One is their Airtable API key for your entire Airtable account. And that's just sort of like you're just saying to Softr, okay, it's fine for you to work with my Airtable account. And then the second piece of information that you're going to need is which of the bases inside of your Airtable account would you like Softr to work with in this particular situation? So this portion here under integrations is the whole account-wide API key. So that's the first piece of data that we need to get. Inside of Airtable, in order to get that, we're going to start by going to Help, and we're going to go to API Documentation. This is one of the things that I think is really great about Airtable. They've actually adjusted this documentation for your specific base. So none of that example.com substitute your own information in here like you read in so many help documentation or websites, so forth. You have to try to figure out what exactly you swap out and so forth. Here, Airtable gives it all to you exactly the way you need it to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down here to the authentication section. Authentication, fancy word, just sort of connecting our applications. And over here in the text, which is pretty easy to ignore, right here it says that to generate or manage your API key, visit your account page. Okay, visit your account page. So go ahead and click on that tab. This is going to give you your account page. And as you scroll on down here, you will find right here under API, it's going to give you your personal API key. If you don't have one yet, then there should be a button here that you can click on that will generate that key for you. Click that button, and then you are going to click on this and copy it. And for all of you out there who are wondering, well, let me just grab that key and drop it on into my account, I am going to change that as soon as I am done with this video. So I'm not giving away my API key to my entire Airtable account. So just go ahead and highlight that, copy it, and now we can go back to Softr. And here, once again, under settings, under integrations, under Airtable, here is where you're going to paste this in. So it should start with the word key, and then some string of random letters and that come after that. Go ahead and say save. So all that does is it's going to connect your Airtable account with Softr. The next thing that you want to do is we're going to add a new block. Going ahead and add a new block, and I'm going to add a listing. okay? Not the listing details, add a listing. Go ahead and click on listing. And just as you have seen already with all of the other blocks in Softr, there's a whole bunch of different choices here. The one I am going to choose just to get us started is this list with vertical cards and visible button. You'll have to scroll down a fair amount of the way in order to get to it. But I just kind of like the way this one looks. So going ahead and choose list with vertical cards and visible button, go on ahead and click on add to page, and that will go ahead and add this. Let me just put that off the screen. I have my AirPets header that I walked you through how to create yesterday. And then after that, you'll see this. So that's our listing, and it looks kind of like a wireframe, sort of like somebody drew this out without a whole lot of detail. Yeah, you'd be absolutely right. And that's because we haven't configured this to do anything yet. So if we just click anywhere inside of that, over here on the side, we'll see that we get the very first thing it's going to ask for is our Airtable API table URL. What a mouthful, okay? And so now that Softr has access to your entire Airtable account, we need to tell Softr specifically which base should they be talking to? Which base are we going to pull the information out of? And in that case, back in our Airtable API, now we're going to look over here on the right side of the screen where it says this weirdo curl, and then it's got https api.airtable.com, and then this long weirdo looking address right here with this strange slash going the other direction on the end. You have to be really careful about what you select in order to get this to work. All you need is this part right here, starting with HTTPS, not the curl. Go all the way over to just after the end of that table there, okay? So in my case, it says table %201. All right, so right after that one, that is how much of that you want to highlight. Copy that. I recommend leaving this tab open. You will want to access this particular piece of information several times as you are working right here inside of Softr, because anytime you add a listing detail or you want to try a different listing layout, it's always going to ask you for the same piece of information. So if we take that back to Softr and we go ahead and drop that on in here, then it's going to open us up to a whole bunch of additional information. So we can talk about all of this stuff a little bit later, but for right now, scroll on down here past the filters, and let's start with some easy stuff. First of all, do you want to show the search bar? There's a search bar up here on the top. You can show it or not show it, turn it on or off. I'm going to turn mine off. We only have like 8 pets, but if you had a whole bunch of pets, maybe you'd want that on. Then here under list item, it's going to ask you for certain pieces of information. It's going to ask you for an image, a title, and a subtitle. Well, as we think back to our Airtable base here, we have a picture down here, our pet photo, but we don't have a title and we don't have a subtitle. So what's up with that? Well, you can, just because Softr is calling these title, subtitle, image, you can match up with it whatever you want from the Airtable database. But Softr is going to have a very specific way of how it's going to use that information in mind. So here, for example, the picture being the obvious one, the little mountain sunshine icon that's here by default, that is looking for an image to take that place. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, yes, an image. Which image are we going to have? Click on the little magic wand here, and oh, look at that. Those are the names of all of our fields, all the columns inside of Airtable. And we can just scroll on down and choose pet photo. And there are all of our pets. Okay? So the image field here in particular maps to where you would expect a picture to appear. Kind of important. What would make sense for the title? because dogs don't have titles, they have names, right? Oh, well, we can map it then to whatever we want. In this case, I'm going to map it to the pet name. So now you can see here, make that a little bit bigger. There's Sally, okay, and Red and Scooter, and all of their names here underneath, okay? Click in here again to bring back this. The subtitle right now just says subtitle underneath. If you don't want to show anything, you can always turn these off. Okay, so it just says Scooter and then some kind of button underneath. Or you can map this to another field. Now, as I look at all of these good-looking pets, it's very hard for me to tell if they're male or female. So that might be something that we want to list here in our subtitle. So we could certainly choose here the pet gender. And now it will tell us whether these dogs are male or female. If you don't like that, you could swap it out for something else. Maybe if you want, is it adoptable? And that actually isn't displaying. There's a reason for that. That's because adoptable is a check mark, and it's going to pretty difficult to display that check mark here on the page. So that field, if we wanted to use whether these pets are adoptable, we may need to make some changes to our Airtable base. If we chose something different here, you could certainly list the owner name. That might be something to list. You could list spayed or neutered. So if you set up your Airtable base to say yes or no, then you're going to have the word yes or no displaying underneath all of these pet pictures here. So that may be, again, something that you want to change in your Airtable base to say spayed/neutered or intact or fixed or whatever words you want to use for that, so that those will show up appropriately here on the page. I think in the end, the one that I like here the best is the pet gender. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. All right, now a little bit further on here, there's a button that appears here underneath, and we can say something like learn more. If you are bothered by the button text that's there by default. Tomorrow I'm going to walk you through how we can link this to another page for more information about these pets, but I'm not going to spend time on that today. And we'll also configure this on click tomorrow as well. Now back up here at the top, once we have our Airtable API table URL, we have a couple of other things that we can do here. So we can say sort by. So if you want these to be sorted in a certain way, maybe we want to group them by pet name A to Z. So Anakin, Bear, and Bugs. Or we could say whether they're adoptable or not. Okay, so these are all, I think, they are not adoptable. Z to A would be Lightning and Bear. Those are both adoptable pets. So you can choose one of these columns for whatever makes sense. And I like the pet name A to Z, so I'm going to use that. Or you don't have to use this at all. You can choose nothing. And you can pick how many of these you want to display per page. So right now this is set to 6. And as you can see here, you can go all the way up to 99, which is amusing because, of course, as you know, in the free version of Softr, you can only display up to 20 records at a time. So if you happen to configure your Airtable base with 20 records, you'd probably want to choose something like 21 in order to show all of those records, or you can always show a subset. So if I said 9, there's all of the pets that I put in, or I could say 3, and then there's a button here to show more. Let me just show you that in action. Show more. Oh, I'm going to have to put it in preview first. Preview. There's all my pets. And I can show more by clicking on the show more button. By the way, this brings to mind, as you see here, I've got only 2 pets going across here on the desktop. That's partially because I have this set up to record at a pretty large size because I want you to be able to read what's going on my screen. Chances are in your desktop, it'll show 3 of these items going across the page. And as we go to our smaller devices, you can see here, these are just going to stack on top of each other really, really nicely. So that's kind of cool. All right, so that's the way it's going to look in preview. One other edit that you might want to make here, right now it says all categories on the side, tag, 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 tag. That happens to be this concept of filtering your data. And so here, we could change this text here to say something like filter by, and I could say something like gender, pet gender, and then my options here would be male, semicolon, female. And so now what I could do, if I just preview this again, if I want to see just male animals, I can choose them. There they are. And I can show more. There we go, 4 male animals, or I can say female, and there's my females. All right, so that's a way that you can filter these. You can add more than one, so I could say add a filter, and I could say adoptable. And we could filter then in that case by the adoptable field. And here, in terms of the tags, we're going to say true. Okay. And if you want to say false, you can. You're going to type those words in there, make sure there's no spaces in between them, put a semicolon in between the values, and if you want them capitalized, then capitalize them there. You can rearrange these, so we could show adoptable at the top of the page. We could show these both at the top of the page. I like them on the left, that's fine. This allow multi-select here is going to allow you to pick multiple items at a time. In the example I'm showing you here, it's male or female, but if you wanted to see all males and females, if you have the multi-select turned on, you could select both male and female. Okay, so if we do a preview now, for adoptable, we say true. There we go. There's our 2 adoptable animals from our Airtable base. And if I say false, then it's actually going to tell me that there's no results. And that, again, has to do with the nature of the check mark that we're using here inside of our Airtable base, telling us whether things are adoptable or not. Because these items here are unchecked, they're probably not mapping to a false value. It's either true or it's nothing. So maybe we just want to change that back again to just true. So we can just take out that false part and just leave the true option in there. And when we preview now, when I filter, I just say true. There we go. Or I can click true again, and I get all of the animals, whether they're adoptable or they have an owner. All right, so that should give you a quick sense of how to hook up your Airtable base with Softr. Remember, there's 2 pieces of information you need, and they're very different. The first one is the overall Airtable API key for your entire Airtable account. The second one is something that looks more like a web address or a URL that points to the Airtable base that you want to use with this particular integration with Softr, and they go in 2 different places inside of the Softr interface. Once you've done that, then you're going to need to map each of the fields, those are the columns, to a display area here inside of Softr. Now, if this particular layout doesn't do it for you and you'd prefer to work with a different layout, there's other blocks that are available under listings, and some of them have more options for mapping more kinds of fields. Unfortunately, to my knowledge, at least here in the free version, there's no way of customizing these or adding additional fields in some way to our particular layout. It's designed to be very, very simple and very straightforward to pull in information from your Airtable base and display it here on the website. So hopefully that gives you a great running start as to how to integrate your Airtable base with Softr. Tomorrow, we're going to take a look at how we can configure these buttons to give us a more detailed page about each one of these pets. See you tomorrow.